please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
It's true. It's true. Here we are again. Happy Saturday. Thanks for being here. There is a lot going on, obviously, in the world. I cannot decide. Good morning, Johnny Million. How are you? How's your
morning?
How's your
How
coffee?
you doing, Sparks?
I'm good. I made myself a cup of
Delicious.
coffee this morning, and I left it on the kitchen counter, and it is just going to sit there the whole show. And I'm never going to drink it. And I'm going to walk by a cup of cold coffee later. It's just how it works. Just life. That's just how things go. Sometimes
I would slurp that down.
Sometimes
and tell myself that it's iced coffee and the ice melted.
Well, that I will. Oftentimes when I do make that mistake, and it happens because I'm a busy guy, and I will sometimes make myself a cup of coffee and walk away. I will put ice in it and try to make make do with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes you're like, that's just awful. That's just terrible. That was a mistake, and it probably has something floating in it that I drank off the top of it, and the cat probably licked the top of it just to see what it was. It's a mistake. I like iced coffee. I have iced coffee, but yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about today. Not the least of which, of course, is the exit from Afghanistan continues apace. The current numbers are at 110,000. 111,000 as of this morning. The original reports was that there were 6,000 Americans in Afghanistan, in the Kabul area specifically, that the State Department said they were going to try to get out. Now the reports have also come in that there are hundreds that don't plan to leave. And so somewhere in the fact that 5,200 of that 6,000 number have been evacuated already, and that the number of people that don't want to go, including their families, is in the hundreds, that's pretty much set and done. We have, if originally the number was something in the order with embassy personnel and others in there, about 60,000 people. We are at 111,000 that we have gotten out of the country. They are still bringing people out. I have no doubt, by the way, that there will still be some evacuation flights of civilian Afghans to other places that the U.S. military and others will be facilitating using the Hamid Karzai Airport, the ironically named Hamid Karzai Airport, in downtown Kabul, over past Tuesday. But in terms of military personnel on the ground that aren't there for quick takeoffs and landings, relying on some sort of interim deal with the Taliban to not bother flights, and the minute flights get bothered, we stop making them. We're done as of Tuesday. And of course, I mean, you've seen the back and forth. You've been watching the fact that we launched a drone strike on an ISIS-K planner in the area around Jalalabad. He was parked with a partner. No civilians were thought to be killed. They were alone in a car in an isolated area. I don't know how to pronounce it in Pashto, but it translates as Blueberry Hill. I'm kidding. Apparently, but
I was on board.
Thank you. I appreciate you following me on that one. And have you noticed, Johnny Million, all the stories about ISIS-K that have suddenly popped up in the last couple of days? This new name sprung upon us, ISIS in Khorasan, right? The ISIS-K, which is a Western ISIS group that's been operating in Afghanistan since 2015, has claimed territory in northeast Afghanistan as their own, separate from the Taliban-controlled territories. When they show those maps about Taliban controls this area, and there's an area that's like, that's weird, why don't they control that area? Well, part of the reasons is because they may not want it, or ISIS-K is there. And no one seemed to be talking about that until ISIS-K blew up a bomb as we were evacuating people out of there. And the soldiers that we lost and that were injured lost their lives protecting people who were escaping the Taliban. There can be, that level of honor in how they served in that moment raises them to the heights of I think many of all who have served and given their lives, especially the fact that, this is one of the most dangerous things you can do is trying to separate, would-be terrorists from civilians trying to escape and still doing that. The work that they were doing, continuing, knowing full well that threat exists and still trying to help people get their families out of that place before the Taliban fully took it over. And again, took it over in quotes because nobody expects the Taliban to have a legitimate control over the country. There are 12 tribes that run it. They loosely knit themselves together based on the Taliban. The ISIS and the more farther right Islamic, the true conservatives amongst the Al Qaeda remnants also don't think that the Taliban are harsh enough, cruel enough, and more orthodox enough in their carrying out of Islamic law, and therefore have declared open war on them. Again, not the best, as they've grown over the years too, and seized territory, which seems to be that's been completely ignored by the media in our country for the last 5 years. Oddly enough, every time Trump said we got rid of ISIS 100%, apparently everybody in the news media just licked the tip of their pencil and went, "Oh, that's interesting, scribble, scribble," and just wrote it all out and moved on. When in reality, they have been growing quite a bit over the last, I would say, 3 years, particularly in Afghanistan, and have certainly found, I think, opportunities for growth, to use a corporate term, in the last year after the Trump administration made a deal with the Taliban that we would be out by May 1st, with no particular plan, by the way, for that removal, other than we get everybody out, the citizens, no one would know they were gone, which begs the question, why were they there in the first place if no one would have missed them? Why would you have them there at all? If there was at all a possibility to remove our embassy staff and all civilians from Afghanistan without them being missed, then why was there even a day longer that you kept those people in the country? It's, you know what I mean? Like, what's the justification for staying a single day further if no one would have missed our embassy staff and civilian operators there at all? If you could have snuck them out, why didn't you? And if you had a great plan, why didn't you carry it out? Because nothing has changed in the last 4 years. Nothing materially in the Afghan government or in the Afghan military has changed at all, except the response to the story by the generals in charge that were painting a rosy picture and had been doing so for quite some time. The only thing that's changed in the last 4 years particularly was the fact that Biden stopped buying the BS. Now, if you'll recall, Biden was against the surge, and not because the surge itself wouldn't work or wouldn't result in getting, killing more Taliban people or providing more, pushing the military into, further into Afghanistan. But because even if it did, it still wouldn't work out. It still wouldn't change anything. We would kill a bunch of people. We would, strafe bomb areas. We would be involved in things that could possibly make us more enemies in the world because civilians might be killed in it. But ultimately would not change the material facts on the ground, would not change the strength or the value of the government or the belief by the Afghans in the government, would not create a situation where the minute we left, the Afghan military wouldn't either give in or surrender their own buddies to the Taliban. Because some groups of the Afghan military were fighting valiantly or chose to fight valiantly until it was absolutely obvious that it would have just been a slaughter. They would have just gone down fighting, but for no good cause, and therefore, you know, no ability to fight again another day. So we've been hearing about ISIS-K over the last couple of days. Now, ISIS-K was formed in 2015, is an offshoot of the Pakistani Taliban. So they operate over the border in Pakistan, get armed, and come back over. And people wonder why the Taliban wasn't willing, or why Pakistan wasn't willing to tell us the truth about where Osama bin Laden was. Curious, eh? So ISIS has moved from Pakistan up north along the border and has claimed northeastern territory. They don't have to claim the southeastern territory because that's the area they kind of already have, because they own the territory right over the Pakistani border and can make strikes from there and just kill people and run back home, use it sort of as base. Yeah. So there have been, and by the way, I want to thank everybody for joining us today on the live stream. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about, we have, I guess the Republican take on Afghanistan is constantly in flux and is getting increasingly ridiculous because it entails asking
That's impressive.
more than one question. Because heads up, news media, if you ask more than one question, you're going to get a ridiculous answer from any of these guys who explain how their plan would have worked and at what point we could have exited Afghanistan without a shot fired. It's an absurdity. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, live streaming at infotainmentwars.com on YouTube. Subscribe. It helps us out. Come on. And if you don't subscribe because you don't do the YouTube thing, find a 15-year-old and have them subscribe and tell them you can watch it later. I only use grown-up
during the week.
That's right. Absolutely. Put a bunch of frog emojis in there. We'll be back.